in general, men are much quicker to anger than women. Now, what I feel though is that I think women are expecting too much in their relationship in the sense that, yes, it's not right for your partner slash husband to become angry so quickly, but you got to also realize that one of the biggest reasons for this is that they do have more testosterone running through their body than they do estrogen. And it's somewhat easier for us to exercise empathy and compassion and that nurturing sort of, quality that women have than it is for men. It's much more difficult for them to step into that empathetic role. And I just want to, remind women overall, be careful for what you wish for. Hi, my name is Luella Young. I'm a psychotherapist and coach. And if you're interested in how your lifestyle is affecting your mental health, then you're at the right place. On this show, I interview various guests from across the miles and share how their lifestyle choices affects their sense of self, their wealth, and most importantly, their health. Enjoy the show. Today, I give a bit of a summary of the Gottman's latest book. It's called Fight Right. And I mentioned that there's one thing that I really quite disagree with in the book, and that is that, when the host asks, what do you see as the biggest problem, with couples when they come in for therapy, they mentioned that it is, the fact that one of the four horsemen is present, meaning that they either see defensiveness, contempt, stonewalling, or criticism. And I have to disagree with that. I feel that most of the couples that come to see me in the last year or two, it's more related to growing distant from one another. That sort of life happened and they didn't put the time and attention into their relationship that is required, just like everything else that we care about, and they've just grown apart emotionally. And I would say second to that would probably be they are inherently two different people than who they were when they first got together. I would say that is one of the two most, you know, reasons why couples see me for therapy. And to me, it makes a lot of sense because, it's not so much the arguing and the fighting. I feel like most couples nowadays are actually quite emotionally intelligent for the most part. How can they not, like, if they're unless they're living in a cave, like, how are people not aware of you know the whole idea of defensiveness? Or, I'm not saying that it's easy, um but most of the things about arguing are pretty simple. And yeah, so I don't really agree that it's one of the four horsemen that's the reason why they come in for therapy. And another thing too that you know the Gottmans mentioned about couples is that men tend to they get, I guess, angry quicker. And I do 100% agree with that in general, men are much quicker to anger than women. Now, what I feel though is that I think women are expecting too much in their relationship in the sense that, I mean, yes, it's not right for your partner slash husband to become angry so quickly, but you got to also realize that one of the biggest reasons for this is that they do have more testosterone running through their body than they do estrogen. And it's somewhat easier for us to exercise empathy and compassion and that nurturing sort of, quality that women have than it is for men. It's much more difficult for them to step into that empathetic role. And I just want to, remind women overall, be careful for what you wish for, because you might wish, more than anything that, a man is not so quick to anger and they offer much more compassion and empathy. But then, you know what? Like, to a certain extent, don't complain if you also find them shopping at like Sephora for their toiletries and Lululemon for their clothes and buying all organic produce and getting, a manicure every week. Like, you gotta sort of balance these things out, guys. Just something to think about. So enjoy the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So it's just me today, solo. And man, I've been trying to start this or record, I should say, record this episode for some time now. And I was determined today was going to be the day. But there's so many other little things that got in my way. Even today, it's sort of like I started doing some administrative, you know, tasks for the business. And here we are, like literally 4 hours later. And I'm I'm probably going to get a delivery any second too, which will make me need to pause the recording and then get to that. But um yeah, it's just life, right? But I think it's important to mention this because you can get so upset about these things. Like, you can go quickly to, shame, guilt, anger, oh, this is so annoying sort of thing, and be all tensed up because you feel like you've done nothing today, or nothing that directly pertains to, your quote unquote goal, right? It's sort of, I mean, I had 4 hours put aside today, and one of the things that I was going to do is get the episode recorded. But I think this is where we need to separate from the goal and go towards the vision. Everything I did today pertains to my vision being, running a sound business, and being a very good therapist and coach, right? Like, I mean, all these things make the service what it is. So it's, I mean, I would love just to write all morning. I would love just to create content that helps people, or create reels, or whatever that might be. But sometimes, what you want is not what gets, what you get. But I I think it's super important because I feel like, what, I have created a new offer, and it's called Mixing Business with Pleasure. And I called it this because, um despite what most people talk about, this whole like work life balance thing, and we have to separate work/business from our personal life. I mean, I get it. There's a time that you just have to shut off stuff at the end of the day, right? Or, yeah, I mean, you can't let your personal stuff interrupt your business, and you can't let your business interrupt your personal life. But there's no such thing as a balance. It's more of a harmony. And to be completely honest, I mean, if I didn't pretty much love what I do, as far as my business, I mean, I just don't know how I could continue. Um, I am not the person that does the 9 to 5 job that I severely dislike, and then, then I can enjoy life. I mean, no. To me, whatever your career is, I sure hope that you have a lot of love for it. And that's what I mean, mixing business with pleasure. Like it has to be both. To me, it has to be a harmony of sorts. And it's interesting. Okay, so first of all, I'll just okay. Okay, I am slightly ADHD. Like honestly, I am like assessed and proven. So, be patient with me during my solo episodes because it's so easy for me to go off task. But it's anyway, it's a 3 month/12 week program that I'm super excited about offering to female executives and entrepreneurs because myself being an entrepreneur, I know what it's like. As a business owner, I know what it's like, especially as a woman. So, it's not to say that I'm only going to see women for this program. If you're a man listening right now, this might be something for you. But I basically saw what I was lacking in my own business that kept me from not staying aligned to my vision. And that is what I plan to do for other people now because it's a game changer. I mean, even for those who have ADHD tendencies or feel very overwhelmed because it's because they're not able to sort of like prioritize what's really important right now. Um, and without prioritization, you don't you're not able to reach that vision. So anyway, I will include the link in the show notes if that's something you're interested in looking at. It will come with a playbook, the real thing, like paper and pen. Uh, and I myself love that. I love scribbling in my, book/journal/ paper that you need to look at every single day in order to stay accountable towards your vision. It's extremely helpful. And yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's helped me so much. Um, I'm happier. I'm much more productive. I'm intentional. Um, and I'm getting a lot more done than I used to. I'm just much more proactive instead of just putting out, fires throughout the day. And of course, it aligns to, well, being aligned to your vision is sort of, it helps in so many ways. It reminds you every single day while you're doing this, like while you're doing the grind. Um, and it can be a grind. It's not to say that, um, just because I'm like mixing business with pleasure, like I'm harmonizing the two. It doesn't mean that some days I just like we all have our really bad days. We all have those days where we're kind of like, this is stupid, not doing it anymore. I hate my life. I suck. Um, and then we attach these narratives, and this is why I suck. This is why and it always goes back to those limiting beliefs that you have, or this is why I can't do it. It's because I'm this type of person, and when we do all this like, you know, identification of who we are, and this is why I can't move forward, it's like that's that is where we tend to give up, is because we identify ourselves as a certain person that is not able to change. But learning a new skill is just what gets you on that other side of, the uncomfortable moment that you're having, right? Like it gets you on the other side of the grind. It's learning a skill that perhaps you thought you cannot learn because of this certain identity you have as a person. Um, but it's tricky because you also don't want to give up your authenticity, right? Like who you actually are. So it's very important in the beginning to come to terms with the type of person you are and not try to change, so drastically that it takes you out of your alignment. I know it's sorry, this is sort of like maybe out there, like a little bit having trouble with that word, existential, but it's doable. Like it's like once map it out on paper, you can have both. You can see, you can stay aligned to who you are as a person, and then determine, this what's getting me, from like staying aligned, this is the person I am, to where I want to go, my vision. Do I have to become a different person in order to do that? Or do I just need to learn another skill? And very often it's just learning a different skill. And it's not getting away from like your authenticity, your sense of self. And I see a lot of similarities between individual work and the work I do with couples. And that's why I always, always, always suggest to do a lot of individual work if you want to work on your relationship. And I love seeing people more individually than I do as couples. Because I mean, there are skills to learn in terms of communication when the couple is in front of me, but you know what? You need to do individual work. We all need to do individual work in order to make your relationship stronger. But to tie in the both right now, like I mentioned to you, like staying aligned to your vision, where do I want to be in 15 years, in 20 years, in 25 years? I do the same thing with couples. And it's one thing that actually allows them to not get caught in all the, tiny little details about the conflict or something. It allows them to, um, it just reminds them of, setting the intention, right? It's like, you know, what are we talking about here and now? Like rather than focusing all your attention on what characteristic is bothering you about the person across from you. Like what's our long-term vision here? What's our goal? Um, let's get down to what matters. It helps us create more of an understanding, a collaboration of sorts, a problem solving, y- you know, sort of mindset when you're speaking to your partner, rather than being in your head and analyzing all the reasons why this is not a good human being across from you, or this human being is so flawed. No, um, stop describing their flaws and start describing yourself. That's the thing. When we're in conflict with our partner, we're often trying to describe their inadequacies. Uh, just as a very easy thing to remember, if you're in conflict with someone and you're having an argument, realize or bring your attention towards how much you're describing them, and then shift that and start describing yourself using the phrases I feel, um, you know, my intention for our discussion is this. That helps you stay out of the minutia, the details that you don't need to get into. And again, that's what we do in the boardroom, right? That's what we do in business. We don't start um, criticizing or describing like our peer in the boardroom if we're trying to solve a certain problem in our business, right? Like we attend to what the problem is, not attend to what the person, you know, is. We keep that stuff out of it. And that's why I mean, like, let's, bring in, um, take the person, take the emotion out of it. Like, just go to the problem solving. Um, and you'll find that, your personal life will become a lot better. So, holding your vision, whether that's a relationship, where do we see ourselves in 25 years from now, or whether it's your personal life, it's very important to use visualization and remind yourself of what that is, um, if you're going through a hard time. And, I mentioned identity here a few times, who, like how do you identify yourself right now? What I'm noticing is this is becoming a bit of a crisis right now in the last few years. And it's interesting, like if you look at like what's the big question, when people are having existential crisis, call that, a midlife crisis or whatever. I think it's really changed throughout, you know, the last century. And in, post World War One, let's say post like the late 30s or early 40s, after people have gone through a depression, for example, and all the devastation of war, I think the question was more of, Eckhart Tolle's like, what's my purpose? What's my meaning? Like, why am I even here? That was sort of like what took us out at our knees, like it's sort of, oh my God, like, and then they would seek therapy, because they're spiraling down. Like, I don't even know why I'm here. And but throughout, like, I'd say more like when the economy was booming and more in the 1950s and 60s, yeah, it was more of, am I enough? I think that was mainly because there were a lot of there was much more wealth in abundance during that time, and then other people were continually trying to be more like the Joneses, right? Like it's sort of like to keep up with the neighbors and what they had, um, which, I mean, once you reach, whatever that goal might be, you chase after the next thing, and the next thing and the next thing. And so you never fulfill that peace that you're searching for. Um, and just this feeling of, adequacy, like it's enough, I'm, and so the whole idea of like, am I worthy enough? Am am I enough? That sort of became the big question. And now I think as of late, it's more of, who am I? How do I identify myself? Like, because of many different reasons, but I think one of the bigger reasons is, you know, just our access to knowing everybody else's business, right? Like being on social media, having access to so much information to compare ourselves to whoever, right? Like whether it's like reading about, you know, these, the relationship of, whoever. I mean, oh, and they have such a beautiful relationship, or or comparing, your looks to another person, or your job to another person's, or their salaries, or whatever it is. And then, now as individuals, we take on so many different roles as well. And I think it's as part of the identity crisis as well. It's like, okay, I'm a mom. I'm, a caretaker towards my mom. I'm also a provider of the family, but I'm also a nurturer. Working from home, I'm a slash kind of stay-at-home mom because I can leave my dog out. I can answer the front door if necessary. I can, um, maybe even do some household tasks like while at home. But at the same time, but I'm not like I'm actually running a business, and and so in this whole like um equality in terms of gender equality, right? Like there's still a big gap between genders in the corporate space, um and yet, I mean, why is that still there? But then there is big differences in the two different genders, right? Like we got to stop trying to, I don't know, like, I mean, there's certain industries where like there should be a predominance of a certain gender in certain industries because it makes a whole lot of sense. And I'm just thinking right now, like, I mean, certain industries, companies, or institutions that require a lot of strength, like physical strength, it makes more sense to have one gender more like aka men in that industry than it would be for, but then there's other things that no, it wouldn't matter, whether you're female or male. It's just sort of like what's your skill level. So it's all so confusing, and it just makes us question like who I am, even sexually. Like, I mean, and I think that's sort of the existential crisis that most people are having right now. So there's that. Now, I think again, it can be simplified, but just staying close to your vision, like always reminding yourself of what the bigger purpose is here for myself. Like, how do I want to see myself? What kind of person do I want to be in 25 years from now? But, you take it slowly, right? How about 3 months from now? How about 1 year from now? How about 2 years from now? And breaking it down, because otherwise it becomes extremely overwhelming. I don't even know what action to take right now because I have no idea. I might know who I want to become, but I have no idea how to get there, sort of thing. And that's what, coaches are especially good at, is helping you stay true to that vision, make you accountable, and make sure you know, do something each day that is meaningful and that aligns with that long-term vision, and prioritizing those things. Yeah. Um, Now let me move away from that a little bit and talk. I want to like by now probably that I'm a Gottman's therapist, and I I really hold true to their methods. They're excellent. And I want to sort of like summarize a little bit of their latest book. It's, oh God, I'm also blanking on their book name. You can tell I just did 4 hours of admin work and my brain is super tired. I think it's called Fight Right. Quite sure that's their latest book. Just search it up. How to Fight Right or something like that. And I just wanted to talk about a few things that I think are important to review. Now, One thing that they mentioned, and like the Gottmans, have done a lot of research, but their research is continuing, and I think it's probably about 45 years. I've often referenced that they've had 40 years of research, but I mean, yeah, it's probably up to about 45 years of research right now. And they mentioned that one of the greatest predictions for success of a marriage is to be non-assuming or to be able to be influenced by your partner. And this is really like it makes a lot of sense, right? Because as what I was referencing before, it's not easy to stay to keep your intention on the problem at hand. Um, because so often we want to go on the defense and sort of somehow try to prove ourselves as I'm right and you're wrong, rather than just focusing on the task at hand. And um, so allowing yourself to be influenced by your partner, like to be able to actually listen to their perspective and be, take some agreement from that. Like, I mean, it's sort of, I understand why you would feel that way. Or, giving some empathy, right? It's sort of, mm, that makes sense to me. It makes sense to me why you would feel that way. Now that I've, attuned and paid attention and I was in the present moment while I was listening to you and not stuck in my head, thinking about all the times you hurt me in the past and creating my rebuttal towards whatever you're going to say to me right now. Um, no, I was actually listening to you as a human being. Um, Again, the same way that maybe I would do with a business partner or a peer, actually listening and being present and focusing on the problem at hand. So to be able to be influenced by a partner or another person is a very humble um trait, and I think one that we all need to strive towards again, because to be unassuming is difficult. Is very difficult, especially when you feel like you've known this person for so long and I know what they're going to get at, and they do this all the time. And but to be able to be influenced is a wonderful, humbling trait to um, embody. And at the same time, on an individual basis, stop trying to influence other people. There's a big difference. You can give your perspective while not trying to influence somebody, right? It's sort of your perspective is something that's true of yourself. Like, I mean, this is just something from my heart, my soul. This is how I see it. Not saying it's right or wrong. This is just how I see it. But the influencers out there, every Tom, Dick, and Harry on social media is trying to be influencer, meaning that, this is the way. And if I can sort of cause some sort of resistance, out there, or divisiveness, or put up, like, be up on somebody else and prove someone else wrong, or cause some controversy or conflict, or I mean, we know that this is what, gets people up in the rankings. It's sort of like, post something that kind of raises people's, like, adrenaline levels, or, raises their feathers, or whatever it is. And that's what's going to get, attention, right? So you got all these influencers out there trying to, um, get more followers. And like that is just garbage. because like it's, for the person who wants to be unassuming, slightly naive, slightly humble, slightly open to different perspectives, that person can be very, you know, what's a word? Yeah, naive and gullible, but in a very innocent way. And these are the people that get sucked up by these influencers, and then you begin to like, that's where the identity crisis, like, it's like, I think I thought I felt a certain way about a topic, but should I? Is that right? And therein lies the problem. That's why people don't even know like what they want anymore. Like, and that's a question I ask, all my clients in terms of creating their vision. Like, what do you really want? And it's so hard nowadays. It was so much simpler before. Well, this is the only thing that's available to me because, this is what's in my immediate environment. In a way, you could say, no, the world is your oyster. You can do all of this. But then you get so many different, like, options in front of you. And that's why everybody's like riddled with anxiety because they're trying to make the best decision rather than just making the decision right. With which is like I mentioned Ellen Langer in many of my other episodes. Like I mean, I love her work because it's all on mindfulness, and it's sort of like there's going to be bajillion options out there. Just decide on one, and after you make that decision, decide that that was the right decision to make. Done. Period. Move on, rather than getting caught up with all this like anxiousness about, was it right? Oh, I could have went that. And so it causes a lot of like unsettled energy inside you. So stop trying to influence others, just be yourself. And it's not necessarily right or wrong, good or bad. It's like, it's just who you are. Um, And it always comes back to just like being in the present, and not being in your head while you're doing this is sort of because you're worried about what other people think. It's just sort of just be yourself, just be genuine, and the rest will all fall in place. It's not a big deal. But that's what I mean. People don't even know who they are anymore, and that's the problem. So what do? You spend a lot more time with yourself. You spend a lot more time in in just in silence, and cut off the phone. Like, I mean, get rid of the apps. Because I mean, honestly, like I try to hire out as much as I can to post on social media because I mean, I still create the content, but I'm not on the app, posting it because I just feel like as soon as I open it up, whatever is like calling out my name, saying, Luella, you need to buy this, you need to purchase this, you need to try this, you need to wear this, you need to um are you sure you don't need a moisturizer? Like, it's like, you mentioned the other day that, you want to purchase a new blender, to your husband. Oh, here's an ad about a blender. Um, hmm. You know, it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. It's not safe. It's not safe. Um, yeah, and if I feel like this as an adult, I can't imagine, what our children are experiencing right now. That's what I mean. It's crazy. And when you're not in the present, that's when you react to things instead of responding to things, which is another thing that, the Gottmans mention is, again, I'm pertaining, like I'm talking about their book, but I'm also mentioning like things in a relationship that will help your relationship. Is that if you actually pay attention to what the person's saying, you attune to their needs. What do they need? Not what can I get out of this? Instead of what can I prove to them? Where do I, you know, how else can I, make sure that I'm right and you're wrong? Like, no, let's just attune and pay attention to what their needs are. Um, because if you don't do that with your partner, they'll never feel safe. And the goal is to make the person you love feel safe. And the only way you're going to do that is to pay attention to what their needs are and what they might be feeling right now. Oh, one other thing, I think it's important for me to mention this in terms of couples again, because I see this a lot, is that, okay, and it goes with mixing business with pleasure. Mm, Women often get upset if their partner uses some sort of note-taking apparatus, whether it's like most men just do the paper and pen as well, like, or keep a notebook in terms of, okay, this is what I need to bring up to my therapist or my coach. This is when they're having a discussion with their wife, is to, or partner, or like, write these things down, like what she's saying, this is something that I really need. And so they're scurrying and then they're writing it down. Okay, this is what she needs. This is what she needs. And this is what she needs. And for some women, that can be very off-putting. It's like, really? You need to, like, write these things down? You know, and when you think of it, it's so funny. Like, I mean, yeah, like, why is that a bad thing? Because, I need to take notes. I'll never remember all these things. Really? You're not so in tune with me that you can, like, read my mind? Like, and know every single emotion that I'm feeling right now? Seriously? After, like, spending, the last 20 years, you need to write down notes about what I need? Um, poor guy's like, yeah, is that bad? And women, it's not bad, because that's just more of like a man's brain, that it's sort of like the more masculine part of them coming out. And, you know, like, give the guy a break. Let him take down notes. It's okay. Like, we're multifunction, like, creatures, women, and we got, 10,000 things going on in our head at one time. Where men are very linear, they're very structured, they're very black and white. That's why we have more accountants, that are men. We have more lawyers that are men. Um, and it's for a reason. Like, I mean, it's black and white, structured, linear. Don't make me multitask. I'm just doing this right now. Don't ask me about three other things while I'm doing this. And so, yeah, that's the way they are. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. You're going to have to suck it up and just allow them to take notes and bring the notes to the session. And yeah, um, you should be very thankful that they're making the effort to do that. Okay. It shows that they actually love you. So allow that to happen. And one other thing, and then I'm going to drop off, is when it comes to, what you want in your partner. Now, women, just as I said before, the amount of different roles that we're expected to be, right? Like, you know, as I mentioned before, like, we're all these, we need to be all these things right now, rather than just being a nurturer, for our children, a stay-at-home mom, um, or a caregiver, or whatever it is. No, we need to hold a full-time job, and we need to still pull off all these other things during our day. But you have to think of it from a man's perspective as well. Their primary role since the dawn of time was basically to fix the problems that are occurring in your family. Like, I mean, more of the physical problems, like, whether that's um, a broken tap or clearing off the snow on the driveway or maintaining the vehicles or fixing a loose shingle um, on your roof. They love to problem solve, okay? And they're very good at it. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't do that as well if you love doing those things, but predominantly it tends to be the man that does these things. It also is a man that, typically is more of, brings in more of the income to the family. Not always. And I'm not saying, any of that is good or bad, right or wrong. It tends to be more of that. Um, so what I'm saying is that, you know, there's many things about what men tend to do and their behavior that we really actually like that we are thankful for. So we have to be mindful of that, and we can't expect our partners to be everything. In other words, with the pen and paper thing, they're not mind readers. It's more of a female trait or tendency to be able to do to like step into more of that empathy and read your feelings and like be more of the nurturer and provide the empathy that's often required in, let's say, solving some of these conflicts, right? But so be careful what you wish for. If you want your partner to be like super empathetic and nurturing of your feelings and understanding of your feelings, like to a point that is not even possible, because of their, you know, let's face it, like they have more testosterone. They're there to fight and keep you safe um, from, you know, anything in the environment, basically. They want to keep you safe, and they have the ability to fight off impending danger in your life. Uh, and but with that extra testosterone, they tend to come with less estrogen, which is more of the nurturing hormone, right? And so, like, in other words, if you're having a conflict with your husband, how would you feel about that? Like your partner starting to cry in front of you? I don't think that's a trait you really want in your husband, or for him to come home from a bad day of work and just constantly be breaking down in front of you, or, kind of sitting there puzzled, like, I don't know what to do. Like, hmm, like, could you help me start the lawn more? or, or, like, how do you change the oil again? Like, be careful what you wish for. Like, you can't have everything, right? Like, you can't have everything in your partner. He's not going to check off all those, like, nor would you want him to, because then he's going to have an identity crisis. It's sort of like go for the harmony. There's some things that I really like about the guy. There's some things that I really don't like about the guy. And I'm okay with that. It's sort of like like, pick your battles sort of thing. But if the one or two or three things, it's something that is not aligned to who you are, your values, and blah, 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 that's a whole other story. I'm not talking about that right now. I'm talking about the day-to-day, annoyances that we have, like with our partners, right? Like, that's what I'm talking about. So be careful what you wish for. You can't have everything, okay? There's no such thing. And yeah, there's certain things that women find very, very difficult about you know, this person across from you having more testosterone. Because you just don't get it. Like, another thing is quick to anger. It's something that men there are a few handful of women that have been in my office saying this is something I really need to work on. But I'm telling you, it's about 80% men that say that and 20% women. It's just what it is. So, it's very common. I'm not saying that they don't need to work on their emotional regulation and AKA stop, reacting so strongly to your to the anger that you're feeling inside your body right now, like to that emotion. Of course, we need to work on that, but if you're looking for a partner that rarely has that tendency, you might be looking for a long time. The better thing is to identify it, have him intrinsically really want to work on it because he's screaming at you, he's screaming at the kids, he's being told, by his boss to get a hold of it. He's punching the walls, every second day, like road rage. I mean, obviously it comes like to a point where society is not accepting him, and this is something that needs to be worked on, and heaven forbid, physical violence, in the home or something like that. I mean, that's like a non-negotiable, right? None of that's okay. So anyway, let's leave it at that. I need to run, and I hope that you have a great week, and I'll catch you here later. Okay, bye-bye. Thanks once again for joining me on another great episode of I Think I Can podcast. If you liked it, please subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future episodes. And until next week, treat each day like it was your last, because each new day is a privilege that we shan't take for granted. Cheers and have a great week. Bye-bye.